guys. Let's answer more Qi Gong questions. All right, so the first question, let's see what we got. At DJ. Hi, at DJ from episode 65. Sifu, how do you use the beats for anchoring? Well, that's a good question because it really helps people with anxiety and overthinking. So, pretty popular technique. Like, you see monks counting beats, right? Christian mystics as well. I don't practice it myself in the original Taoism, but it's very, 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 very effective because the idea of anchoring is that, when your mind is racing and there's a million thoughts going through a million miles an hour, if you focus and get one point of focus on one thought, then all the 10,000 thought disappears. That's the idea. Very popular in psychology, very effective, and is also used for thousands of years in the mystic traditions, right? So they might count beats. They might synchronize it to counting the breath. They might synchronize it with visualizing a deity or a god or somebody they worship. Or in some cases, they might start praying with it, or they might use a mantra with it. So there's all sorts of methods they use with it. Very effective. I recommend it for people with anxiety or they can't stop their mind for thinking. I've seen it work really well, especially for older people who don't want to do any energy work. Like they have no interest in learning how to stand. They have no interest in learning moving Qigong or Tai Chi. They have no interest in learning the sitting methods. They just want something really quick that they can practice and is very easy to understand. So they can memorize a poem or a prayer or a mantra, get some beats, and they can learn these techniques. But it's also very important to find a good teacher. I do not practice it, so maybe someone in the comment section can recommend someone that is authentic and that is really good. So, okay. Second thing, but even if you're not using, say, beats, but you can use mantras. And in what I practice, sometimes we do that. We might repeat a mental statement for the same reason for anchoring, right? But in that point of view, it is doing practice. And I practice a non-doing tradition, but sometimes I will grab doing methods in order to cure a certain problem at a certain stage. So it's like not black and white. A non-doing tradition will be 80% non-doing, 20% doing drills, and a doing tradition would be 90% doing drills, 10% non-doing eventually. So it's like the yin and yang sign. The black has a dot of white and the white has a dot of black. And what I want to say is when you're using mantras, right, at least in the way we practice, sometimes people get hung up on the statement and the idea of anchoring that we just discussed. But from our point of view in our tradition, a mantra or a saying or a chanting or anchoring, a mantra is only useful if it gets to the point where it disappears. This is crucial, which we call yapjing in Chinese, to enter quietness or to enter stillness. Because the idea of anchoring is you get 10,000 thoughts, like I said before. You focus on one thought and everything else disappears. So your mind quiets down and settles, right? Once your mind settles in emptiness or stillness, you do not, like the mantra actually disappears. So if you're repeating a mantra, like I do nothing, the chi naturally move. Let's say you're doing something that basic. I do nothing, the chi naturally move. I do nothing, the chi naturally move. You're chanting this over and over and over, or the Buddha's name over and over, whatever your tradition is. As you're chanting this over and over, you'll notice that because you're focusing on one thought, everything else disappears. Now, when that time comes, when all the thought disappear, you have one thought left, right? The mantra that you're chanting. If you keep going for a long time, depending on the person, what usually happens is it just disappears. Your mind goes to complete emptiness, even though you are fully awake. If you have an energy training background, and some people don't, they just practice praying or anchoring, but some people do. Maybe they got some standing or some Taoist sitting behind them. Then what usually happens when a mantra disappears is everything roots into this center and it starts to spin and get pretty hot. At that point, you experience a stillness of mind. And that's so good for people suffering from burnout, overthinking, and anxiety. Very, very effective. For a lot of my students, they report when they experience everything going down and the mantra disappears. Some of them even cry because the first time for years they finally can switch off their brain and experience some peace, right? So I just want to throw that out there because a lot of time people charge a lot of money for mantra work, and I don't think that's right because they say in Zen, if you cross the shore, you don't carry the canoe on your back. You already crossed the shore. Just put the boat down. Use it when you need it. Go. So it's the same thing as mantra. I think it's kind of deluding students a little bit when you get really hung up on it. It's not right because if you do it properly and you focus on one thing and everything else disappear, if you actually keep going, that one will also disappear to zero. And then you enter stillness, or yapjing in Chinese. And you end up at first in this center, which allows you to turn off overthinking. So that's the first thing. Don't, like, there's just a tool. Don't get attached to it. Right? And then second thing is the idea of collecting mantras is also really popular in certain countries, which I won't mention, or certain traditions, out of respect. Mantras have this magical power to reduce human suffering in terms of overthinking. So sometimes students and teachers would get attached to it, where we talked about that. But another thing it produced that I find it very common, and I'm kind of laughing because I've seen this so many times, and it's kind of like you're shooting yourself in the foot, where people start collecting these things. Like they get into this technique mentality, which is unfortunately common in Qigong industry nowadays, or community, nowadays, where people think is about collecting power techniques, right? Including mantras. And I had an acquaintance or a friend like that I know for over 30 years. And every time you see him, he's got a new trick, a new mantra, a new breathing technique, a new breath work technique, a new Qigong light technique, or a new standing method technique, or a new moving pattern technique. Technique. But he's still sick after 30 years because he never gave his nervous system a chance to understand what these techniques are for, is to settle into stillness. It's for the 10,000 to return to the one, as they say in Taoism, and for the one to go to zero, which is Wu Qi in Taoism, right? The whole point of all these things, if you look at it like a tree, the whole point of all these branches is to go back to the root. So once you go back to the root, you stop collecting all these different branches, right? Because the whole point is not to satisfy your ego, to brag about how many tricks you know, rather it's breathing techniques or energy visualization or what have you. The whole point is to heal and feel better and relieve suffering. And I really hope people can take that to account. Because if overthinking stops and you end up going to a lower burner, if you don't get hung up on the anchoring and the techniques and the tricks, eventually what will happen is it will start to sprout and you'll hit this center. So if you hit this center, that's when people start reporting things all over the world, like seeing light or seeing brightness when they meditate. It is usually when this area starts to open that you start to feel an enormous amount of endorphins and serotonin, a sense of like just overwhelming bliss. And it is at that point that depression starts to kind of dissolve, right? Because anchoring by itself is pretty good for anxiety, but it really doesn't touch depression. It will come right back as soon as you stop. And so many people are suffering from chronic sadness besides anxiety. I think this is really important for people to consider. Like, don't collect tricks. Don't get hung up on mantras. They're very useful. Use anchoring, use mantra. But once they disappear by itself, it's time to move on. Don't carry the boat on your back. Okay, so I hope I did an okay job explaining that. And let's see the time. Oh, we're out of time. All right, guys. So I hope that helps. I talk faster than usual, so if I overteach or if I went too fast, I apologize. Please leave your questions below because I really want to talk about this because, a lot of people are suffering from this kind of mental non-stop stuff. It doesn't help that we're always on our phone to train our brain to do that. So leave your questions below if you have any questions. If you want to train with us to learn these methods, it's really important because you can talk about this all day. It's not going to help anyone unless you actually learn the methods and have a teacher to customize this, right? So Whether you're joining my school or someone else's school or anywhere, any tradition around the world, it's important to start some form of practice. If you're interested in training with us, follow the links below. See you next time. Have a good night.